Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to our channel. Today, we will embark on an exciting historical journey to tell about the life and amazing stories of all the daughters of King Edward VII of the United Kingdom. King Edward VII, known for his luxurious life and diplomatic efforts, he had three daughters, each of whom had her own unique personality and her own destiny. Today, we will look at their stories, their influence on the royal family and society, and try to unravel the mysteries of their lives. Princess Louise. On a cold February day in 1867, a baby was born, Princess Louise Victoria Alexandra Dagmar. At that time, she already had two older brothers, and she became the first girl in the family. Later, two more sisters and one brother were born to their parents. Unfortunately, the youngest of the children of the Welsh family passed away shortly after birth, the day after his birth. As a child, Princess Louise was called by the affectionate nickname Lulu, but her official name sounded like Her Royal Highness Princess Louise of Wales. 3 months after her birth, she was baptized at Marlborough House. This important moment was noted by the most influential people of that time, King George I of Greece, who was her uncle, Louise of Hesse-Kassel, her grandmother, Tsarevna Maria Fyodorovna, her aunt, the future Empress of the Russian Empire, as well as Princesses Alice, Louise, and Elena, who were her aunts and daughters of Queen Victoria. This moment of gaining a name and faith was an important step in the life of Princess Louise and testified to her important role in the royal family. Little Princess Louise spent her childhood in the cozy walls of Marlborough House and Sandringham Palace. Here she, along with her younger sisters, received a high-quality home education. The best teachers and educators were brought in for the future daughters of the King of Great Britain, but her mother, Princess Alexandra of Wales, also devoted a lot of time to children. Every year, the whole family, including Princess Louise, made trips to Denmark, where they visited their grandparents. These visits to her grandparents became an important element in Louise's life, where she deepened ties with relatives and immersed herself in the Danish cultural context. This experience influenced the formation of her personality and worldview, which made her childhood rich and diverse. Following probably because of her parents' unhappy marriage, Princess Alexandra sought to avoid having to arrange her daughters into marriages. However, despite this, Princess Louise in July 1889 still married Alexander Duff, who was her father's best friend. At that moment, she was 22 years old, and the groom was 40 years old. Immediately after the wedding, Louise's husband received the title of Duke of Fife. From the marriage of Louise and Alexander, 3 children were born. Their first child was a son, Alastair, but he died shortly after birth, just a few hours later. Later they had 2 daughters, Alexandra and Maud. Both girls received the titles of princesses of Great Britain and Ireland, which reflected their royal connections. A tragic event occurred in 1912 when Princess Louise was left a widow. The cause of Alexander's death was an illness that developed after a shipwreck in which the whole family of Louise got into. This event left a deep mark on the life of Princess Louise and her children and was one of the most tragic moments in their history. After her husband's funeral, Princess Louise became even more withdrawn and avoided social events. Her lifestyle became more reclusive, and she rarely left her home, except when she accompanied her mother and sister Victoria to official events. In 1929, Princess Louise began to complain of feeling unwell, and in the autumn of the same year she had a bleeding in her stomach. These hefty problems became a signal for serious worries, and, unfortunately, they foreshadowed the serious condition of the princess in the future. Princess Louise was rushed to London to see the best doctor after her illness. However, unfortunately, the disease was in an advanced stage, and after a year and a half of fighting it, Princess Louise passed away. She was 63 years old. Initially, Louise was buried in the chapel of Windsor Castle, which was a natural place for the funeral of the royal family. However, after some time, she was moved to the estate that belonged to her husband Alexander. This gesture was perhaps a manifestation of their strong bond and a wish to be together forever. Princess Victoria of the United Kingdom. The second daughter and fourth child of King Edward VII of the United Kingdom was Princess Victoria. Victoria was born on July 6, 1868 in the London mansion Marlborough House. This little girl had a really influential relationship. Her paternal grandmother was Queen Victoria, and her maternal grandfather was King Christian IX of Denmark. In addition, among her relatives were her aunt, Empress Maria Feodorovna, and uncle, King George I of Greece, as well as many other important figures. As a child, little Princess Victoria received the cute nickname Tori, which she was called throughout her life. The upbringing of all the children of the Prince of Wales was thorough and of high quality. Under the watchful supervision of mentors and teachers, the young princesses studied literature, history, philosophy, art, and foreign languages. Loved ones describe Victoria as a lively, mischievous girl who has grown into an attractive girl. She was smart, tall, and elegant, had a great sense of humor, and was a good friend to everyone. She had large, expressive blue eyes, and there was not the slightest pretense or hint of high position in her character. These character traits made her a charming person and gave her a special place in the family and society. Tori was an extremely passionate person and a versatile personality. She spent a lot of time in the library, delving into the knowledge of various subjects and literature. Tori also showed an interest in an active lifestyle. She loved to ride a bike and was engaged in horse riding. Her good hearing and excellent dancing skills made her a prominent figure at balls and social events. However, among all her hobbies, photography has become her favorite hobby. Princess Tori has created many photo albums with family pictures, preserving valuable moments and memories. This hobby allowed her to capture moments of happiness and her loved ones, creating precious historical documents for future generations. Victoria was an incredibly kind and caring girl who always sought to shelter animals. She even went out and trained a pigeon, which she carried with her in a basket. In addition, she took care of her 3 dogs, Sammy, Masa, and Punch. In relations with numerous cousins, Princess Victoria maintained warm and friendly relations. Her relationship with Tsarevich Nikolai Alexandrovich was especially close. In his early years, the Tsarevich was in love with his cousin, and he was fascinated not only by her beauty, but also by her serious character, unfeminine mind, and prudence. Quoting the future Nicholas II, we can say, "She is really a wonderful being, and the more and deeper you delve into her soul, the more clearly you see all her virtues and qualities. I must confess that it is very difficult to unravel her at first, that is, to find out her view of things and people, but this difficulty is a special charm for me, which I am not able to explain." These words show how Victoria was a special and unique person, valuable to her loved ones. Princess Victoria was not only a close relative, but also a reliable support and a loyal friend for her older brother George. Their close relationship stretched throughout their lives, and they supported each other at various points. After the loss of his sister, King George expressed his deep sorrow, saying, "How I will miss our daily conversations on the phone. No one had a sister like I had." These words reflect the deep respect and affection that existed between them and speak of how important Victoria was to her brother and to the entire royal family. Princess Victoria, despite her many advantages and attractiveness, remained unmarried and devoted her whole life to caring for her relatives. Undoubtedly, many worthy men have claimed the hand and heart of this charming daughter of the Crown Prince, including Prince Christian of Denmark, King Carlos I of Portugal, Grand Duke Michael Alexandrovich, and the 5th Earl of Rosebery. However, the princess's mother, Queen Alexandra, considered each of these candidates unsuitable. There were even rumors that Queen Alexandra kept her daughter by her side, not wanting to let her go, and saw her more as a personal servant than as a spouse. These circumstances probably could have played a role in Princess Victoria's inability to create her own family and marriage. After the death of her father in 1910, Princess Victoria became an integral part and right hand of her mother. The Dowager Queen Alexandra experienced many hefty difficulties, migraines, depression, and even hearing loss in old age. Victoria was the one who accompanied her during social events and outings. To communicate with Alexandra's daughter, a special bell was arranged in their house, which she used to call Victoria to her. This shows how close the relationship between mother and daughter was and what an important role Victoria played in supporting and caring for her mother in difficult moments of her life. In 1925, after the funeral of her mother, Princess Victoria decided to retire from palace life and founded a secluded retreat in the small town of Coppens. In the last years of her life, she paid increased attention to gardening and actively participated in solving urban issues. In addition, Victoria became the patroness of three talented cellists. Relatives and friends often visited her house, who noted that peace and tranquility always reigned next to Victoria. Her secluded place became a place where she could enjoy the peace and beauty of nature. The life of Princess Victoria ended in December 1935, but her influence and importance in the family and society left an indelible mark on the history of the royal dynasty. The fifth child and youngest daughter of Princess Alexandra of Denmark was born in November 1869. The newborn princess was given the name of Maud Charlotte Maria Victoria, and a month after her birth she was baptized. The girl was the granddaughter of both Queen Victoria and the royal couple of Denmark, Louise of Hesse-Kassel and Christian IX. In addition, Princess Maud was a cousin of Emperor Nicholas II, which connected her with important royal and imperial dynasties of Europe. Princess Maud, like her older sisters, received a thorough classical home education. Her parents invited the best teachers and educators to provide the daughters of the future king in the best possible way. The mother, Princess Alexandra of Wales, also paid a lot of attention to the upbringing of her children. Little Princess Maud showed interest in reading books, playing chess, and revealed an ideal musical ear and talent for music in music classes. She was special and unique in the family, and her father, the future king, considered her his favorite. From a very young age, Princess Maud showed activity and energy. Her hobbies included equestrian and sailing, fishing, cycling, and her father sometimes took her hunting with him. Jokingly, her family called her Harry because of her mischievous and boyish disposition. Surprisingly, in the society of Maud and her older sisters, Louise and Victoria, they called their royal shyness, and Queen Victoria thought that her granddaughters were too wild, spoiled, and stupid. However, the princess's mother, Princess Alexandra, saw in this rather the desire of her daughters to preserve their true feelings and emotions in private life without flaunting them in society. Princess Alexandra of Wales, who survived an unhappy marriage and the constant infidelities of her husband, was very protective of her daughters and did not want to marry them off. She rejected numerous suitors, dreaming that her daughters would stay by her side throughout her life. It was only when Princess Maud reached the age of 26 that she finally became a bride. Her fiancé was Prince Charles of Denmark, the second son of the King and Queen of Denmark, as well as the cousin of the bride. The wedding of Princess Maud and Prince Charles took place in July 1896 in the chapel of Buckingham Palace. The main guest at this wedding was Queen Victoria, and a special gift for the young was the Appleton House residence, which was presented by the Prince of Wales. Immediately after the wedding, the newlyweds were supposed to settle in the groom's homeland, but Princess Maud decided to stay in the UK and not leave it, which became a marked act, as it contradicted the customs and expectations of that era. The first years of Princess Maud's married life were difficult, as she constantly suffered from various ailments. She was periodically ill with a runny nose, faced problems in her ears, and experienced pain in her back and neck. After 7 years of marriage, she and Prince Karl were finally blessed with a son. Prince Alexander Edward Christian Frederick was born in July 1903. Princess Maud's pregnancy was difficult, and the birth was difficult. The process of childbirth lasted more than a day, and the princess had to go through many difficulties. It turned out that the constant wearing of too tight corsets, which were fashionable at the time, could endanger her life. In 1905, a new monarchical state appeared in Europe, Norway. Charles of Denmark, the husband of Princess Maud, was elected to the post of king, and after the coronation, he took the name Håkon VII. However, the new queen was not popular among Norwegians, and she spent most of her time in the UK, rarely appearing in Norway only at official events. In the early 1930s, the life of Queen Maud was overshadowed by many losses. In 1931, her older sister Louise passed away, followed in 1935 by her older sister Victoria and older brother, King George V. These losses greatly affected her emotional state, and the Queen constantly complained about her health and suffered from depression. Every day she communicated by letters with her brother's widow, Maria Teck, with whom they were very close. These letters may have been a source of comfort and support for her in difficult times. Queen Maud was supported by her husband, son, and grandchildren, but her health deteriorated every day. By the end of her life, she had almost completely lost her hearing and suffered from chronic bronchitis and neuralgia. She last appeared in public on the day of the coronation of her nephew, King George VI, and Crown Princess Elizabeth in 1937. Queen Maud died in November 1938 of heart disease. At the time of her death, she was only 6 days away from her 69th birthday.